Welcome you all. In this video, we are going to see about the Spring Starter project and the RESTful web service. When we spoke about the Spring Boot application, the Spring Boot framework is differs from the Spring framework. The Spring Boot frameworks can have the Spring framework inside in it. That means it is a framework of framework. And the Spring Boot framework can have its own internal server and its own database. It can also configure the classes automatically, and it supports the RESTful web service better than the Spring. So now we get into the Spring Boot RESTful web service. To start with, we need the certain files required with our application. The src main Java is going to be the main folder. In this main folder, we will have two files. One is the file name application. That means if the file name is hello, the hello application.java will be there. And this is the main file. And another one is for the controller. When the browser loads certain URL, at that moment, what page to load with? That is all about the controller class will do. And then the resources. The resources folder will have application.properties. Here you will be configuring certain settings. And then the web app folder will have the JSP files which can be loaded on the certain URL patterns. Then the annotations we are going to use in this project is going to be the Spring Boot application annotation, which is associated with the main file and which internally had enable auto configuration annotation, component scan, and then configuration annotation. And then few more annotations we will be using in this project, like at rest controller. When we say at rest controller above a certain class, then that class will become a rest controller. So that will start to listen for the browser URL pattern changes. And that REST controller is internally having controller annotation and response body annotation. While doing our project, we will look into the differences of these things. And we will be also using request param, get mapping, path variable, and then the request mapping annotation. The get mapping annotation and the request mapping annotation are two sides. Either you can use get mapping or else you can use request mapping with the request method.get. Since I'm speaking about the RESTful web service, the same URL can be triggering 2 to 3 different endpoints. The endpoints in the sense functions. How can it be possible? Like you are having 2 to 3 different functions. Every function needs a triggering point. And I'm saying the same URL can trigger 2 to 3 different functions. In this case, who is calling the URL is important. Like which method, which RESTful service method is calling the URL. According to that, the same URL can trigger 2 to 3 different functions. Not only 2 to 3, n numbers. And one of the method is get. Similarly, we are having post, put, patch, delete, etc. That we will see in the part 2. In this part 1, we will touch only the get method, which is also the browser default method. That means when you put some URL in the browser, it will call the RESTful service with the get method only. And then in the application.properties for accessing the JSP files, that means we will have JSP files under web app folder and under JSP folder in that. The default location of JSP will be the web app folder. And if you change that, then you have to give the prefix for the file name. That means from the web app folder, what are all the subfolders are there. So I'm saying the JSP is a subfolder, and then for the file, the suffix is .jsp. So I will be saying only the file name. The prefix and suffix will be added from the application.properties. That means it will look for the JSP page in a particular folder and it will open the JSP page which matches the file name. And then for this purpose, we require certain dependencies as well. We are going to go with Spring version 2.5.4 and then the Java version 1.8. And we will be having the dependencies in form.xml. The form.xml is the one file which will have the dependencies in the form of code, XML code. When you put the dependencies in that, like this, the dependency tags, it will search for the corresponding jar files and it will put the jar files in the libraries for you. And so you can use those class files in your application. That means you can import, you can use those class files in your application. And certain dependencies for our RESTful web application. This is for the Tomcat based dependency because we need a server to run it. And then we are having the JSP based dependency. The JSP file which we are using is under JSP folder and that need to be loaded. For that purpose, we need this JSTL dependency. And then we are also having the starter Tomcat. This is for the web server based dependency and the previous two. These two are based on the JSP dependencies. And then finally, this JAXB dependency is to avoid the exception, like JAXB exception will be thrown, and to avoid that we are using this dependency. And finally, we will get into the application development now. You can able to see the Spring Tool Shoot 4. This is the IDE which we are going to develop our Spring application, that means Spring Boot application. So this IDE, I will open it now. Give launch. Now the IDE is being opened. So let me start our new project. So to start the new project, you have to go to File, New, and then Spring Starter Project. This is the way to start your new Spring Boot project. When you start it, it will ask for the name of the project. You give the name as Restful 1. And then the Java version which we are going to use, it is going to be 8, and which we are going to create it as a Maven based project. It is asking about the packaging type. The packaging type var for the web application and jar for the Java application. That means core Java application. Now we are going to do the web application, that is the var file, and then just give next with it. And it is asking for the dependencies and the Spring Boot version. Let it to create with its own version. Then we can also modify the version in the form.xml later. And you have to select the dependencies here, which will add the dependency tag in your form.xml directly. Or otherwise, you have to search in mavenrepository.com, and from there you have to put the dependencies inside the form.xml of your project file. So now I will be choosing the Spring Web here and Spring Boot Developer Tool. These two dependencies I will be choosing, and I will go to next and finally finish it. Now the project is been building in the right side bottom. You could able to see that the project is building 47 percentage and it will build with the remaining things. Let me wait. Now the project is being built and you could able to see the Restful one in the left side project explorer. So extract that. Then you could able to see src main Java, and also you could able to see src main the web app folder here. In this web app folder, actually your JSP files will be relying on. And here src main Java is going to hold your Java class files. If you extract this, you are already having a package. In this package, it is already coming up with one main file called, actually two files. In that one main class file called restful one, that means your file name application.java. If you open that, your first annotation called Spring Boot application will be there, which is internally comprises of three annotations as I said in the PPT. Now this will just run, and if you want to display something in it, just say something like system.out.println application started, just to identify the application is started. And this will be printing in console, remember, because it is system.out.println. Okay. And now we will check our basic Spring Boot application. Just right click your restful one, that is the application name, and go to run as. Then you can choose Spring Boot app, run as Spring Boot app. When you choose run as Spring Boot app, it will run the application with the Spring Boot integrated server. Let me check it. I will give. Now you can able to see the Spring logo is appearing here and the server is getting started. And it is saying that application started. And also you can able to note the port number 8080. So let me check this. You have to give localhost 8080. Then you are getting this white label error page. This indicates that your server is running now. Okay. It is not showing you the page like 404 page not found error, right? And there is no mapping for the default slash. Okay, the forward slash. There is no mapping page for the slash to display. That's why you are getting this white label page error. If there is anything mapped for this default slash, okay, then you will get that page in this place, right? Now let me do map for that default slash. Okay, now we need to generate one more controller class which will listen for the URL changes. Okay, so now stop the server and just right click your package, new, and then class. You can say this class as with the same name what we used to have in the PPT, app controller. Let me say that as app controller. So app controller I had set. Just click on finish. The new class will be generated. In this app controller, we need to make this class as the controller class. As of now, this class is a normal class which need to make it as a controller. Then that means we can use two annotations. Okay, one annotation is the controller annotation, or else the second annotation is the rest controller annotation. When you use the rest controller annotation, it internally had the controller as well as the response body. What is response body? when you say at the rate response body, then you will get the return string value in the browser. In the browser, I will be explaining this, okay, while doing the application. And suppose when you want to return a JSP page, okay, and not the string value like welcome world, not like that. I want to return a JSP page. In that sense, I should not say at the rate response body with my program. That means with above my function, I should not say at the rate response body. That means when you use at rest controller, it will become a predefined one for all the functions to be applied with these two annotations. Why I'm saying all the functions means you will be using this at rest controller or at controller above the class name. So whatever the functions inside the class automatically applied with this at response body. That means that will by default expected to return a string value in the browser and not the JSP page. If you want to return a JSP page, just use at controller over the class, okay, and don't use this annotation with the function. That means you can return a JSP page. That we will see it now, okay. For doing all these things, we need to go with certain dependencies, right? So what are the dependencies? So one is Spring Boot Starter Web. Two is Spring Boot Starter Web Service. Let me check these dependencies are available in our form.xml or not. We will go to form.xml. You can able to see the Spring version here in line number 8, 3.1.0. Let it to be with the same version. When if we are not comfortable, then we will change the version, okay. Now let me check the dependency. You can able to see the dependencies tag, and inside the dependencies tag certain dependency are there. One, you are having Spring Boot Starter Web, so that dependency is already completed. And you are also having Starter Tomcat dependency, which is in our PPT, that is also completed. So two dependencies in our PPT is been done. What are the other dependencies we required? Starter web service required. Just copy this and let me have that dependency web service here. And then next dependency. For JSP based one, you need these two dependencies. Copy this and we will have the two dependencies here. Okay. Next. Already Tomcat dependency we are having. To avoid the JAXB exception, we need to have this dependency, JAXB API. We will have this one. Now I have to save this. Okay. While saving it, I am getting multiple errors now. So let me check the errors here. It is saying that the content type is defined as element only. Let me try one thing. We will try to remove this version and let me check it. Spring Boot actually doesn't require version to be in the dependencies because it will take the version on its own. But still we are getting it. So what we can do, we will try to modify our Spring Boot version. That means not the dependency version, Spring Boot version to the required one. that is 2.5.4. Let me save this now. Before changing the Spring version, okay, let me also check these statements. Actually, these statements I had copied from a PPT, so some unwanted characteristics may also come into this. Better we will take the statement from Maven repository. So just copy this Tomcat embedded Jasper. This is the artifact name. And this artifact name, you just search in Maven repository. That means you just type mavenrepository.com, and this is the mavenrepository.com. Here you just search for the artifact name Tomcat embedded Jasper. So you can able to find the first one from org apache tomcat.embed. So that is the one here, org apache tomcat.embed. This group ID corresponds to the organization, and the artifact ID corresponds to the actual name of the dependency. Now you just open the first one and open the latest version. Once again, version doesn't matter in Spring Boot because it will pick the automatic version. Just copy this dependency, and then instead of this JSP dependency, you just paste this one, and it is showing error in the comment line. Just remove these comments. Now have a tab space and save it. Now the error had been gone. That means these are getting error because of some unwanted characteristics while you are getting pasted. So just search for the second one also, JSTL. So you want JSTL from Java X Servlet, and Java X Servlet is the second one which is having JSTL. Click on that and open the latest one, 1.2. Copy this, paste it instead of this block, and replace the commented one. Just erase the commented one. Version is the optional one, okay, and still you are getting error with this. Now the error is being gone. Look at it, because there may be some unwanted characteristics in this free space that had been removed now. Okay, and remove the version of this one also. It will pick. If you give also, no issue. Okay, it is an optional one. First I'm removing it. Then the last one, JAXB API, which is from Java X XML bind. Java X XML bind, JAXB API, and open it. Copy. Just erase up to this and have one enter. Paste it. Remove this commenter line and remove the version 2. Give a tab space and save it. Now the error is been occurring here. Just I will remove this. Okay, let me check it. See here it is been particularly asking the dependency is been missing for JSTL. Okay, better we will give that. Okay, but normally the version is not required. But giving the version is not an issue. Generally, it is not required. But anyway, now it has been asking, so we will be providing that. Once you save it, the error is disappearing. Okay. And for JAX B, we will again copy the version, or we will just copy the version tag. We will paste it. I will remove this additional one. I think it is having the old characteristics, so I will just copy again and I will replace it fully. I will remove this commented one. Tab space, save. Now you can able to see the error is being gone from the JAX-B, and then just remove these spaces and just have one enter, save. Now you can able to see the error for the dependency is also gone. Now you can able to see the yellow mark occurring in the version which is saying remove version declaration. As I already said, it is not mandatory, and whenever it is saying like that, you can go for removing it. For only this dependency it is saying, just remove it. The rest of the two dependencies, let me have version, because without that it is showing error. Okay. For other dependencies, there is no version, right? So now our dependencies are done. We have to go with the class now. So under src main Java, okay, you are having app controller.java. I'm just opening it. So this app controller.java is a regular class. Now we need to make this as a listening class for the browser URL. That means controller class. So how to make it as controller? You have to use REST controller notation. Initially, I will be using it. So now you can able to see the REST controller is from org.springframework.web.bind.annotation. Just click this and it will import and it will have REST controller. You can type partially and you can give control space to get the suggestions, and accordingly select it, you import it. Okay. Now in this class, you can have one function called public string return type, and you just say fun1 is the function name, and this will return a string like hello world. Okay. Now it's a very simple function which will return hello world when it is being called, but where it will return and who will call this? Actually, I want the browser to call this on a particular URL. Okay. And what is that URL and who will call? That means get method will call, post method will call, get, put, post, patch, delete. There are multiple methods to call because it's RESTful service. I want the get method to call. That means get mapping. You can able to see get mapping by giving control space. You import it and then say get method to call and when to trigger it. Like what is the URL? You say that URL slash like call, or just say slash. Slash means this is the home page kind of. If you say slash ABC, then it's a sub page kind of. Okay. Just say slash, and when the project is been localhost colon 8080 slash, this trigger will occur and immediately it will be in get mapping only, because by default the browser URL calling is going to be with the get method. So it will be get mapping, and then it will return a hello world. To whom it will return? To the called place. who called the browser. Okay, to the browser it will return, and you are using REST controller as the annotation. That means it is equivalent to have at response body annotation here. Okay, that means you can use controller in the top. Okay, and then response body annotation over the function. This response body annotation says it is returning a string which is for the browser and not the JSP page. Okay, it is for a browser. This controller and response body is equivalent to our previous one. Okay, that is removing this response body and having as REST controller. So now this scenario is equivalent to the previous one. Okay, now we will run it and see how it is running. Just right click, run as Spring Boot app. So once again it will run. Once the application is started, go to your browser and check for localhost colon 8080. Now you can able to get the hello world. Okay, right. Now let me change this to controller. Okay, and then here response body. If you stop and rerun, you will get the same output. If you refresh it, you are getting the same output. There is no change in the output. Okay, so let me have two pages now: public string fun2, like the second function I'm having, which will return second page. It's a string. Okay, and this will return at the moment of, that means, get mapping URL like slash second. The URL should be slash second to return this, and there is no response body, suppose in case. Okay, what will happen now? Stop it and again rerun it. Let me check in the browser now. Hello world is appearing. Slash second we will put. See, you are getting white label page, white label error page. Now what I will do, I will put the response body annotation here, save it, and server is automatically restarting. So I will just refresh, or I will just give enter here. You will get the second page. Now, instead of giving this two response body, I can have one REST controller on the top. So it will apply response body on both of my functions. Okay. So that is the advantage of having REST controller on the top. Now, why we need response body? That is also important now. Because response body, if you try to take it away, like public, I'm having one more function, public string return type fun3 return, you are saying like welcome. Okay, now you are also mapping this with some get mapping. You can say slash welcome. When you say slash welcome, there is no response body here. So this welcome will act as a file name of your JSP page. Okay, because it is not a string returned to the browser. Now, the JSP page where it will look for is It will look in src main web app folder. Now I'm going to change the location of the JSP page by creating one more folder inside called JSP. In this JSP file, that means JSP folder, I'm going to create a file called welcome.jsp. So it's a JSP file. We can also write HTML tags inside it. Just I'm writing some HTML tags. Head tag and then title tag. And then body tag. Inside this, I'm saying this is a JSP page. And welcomes you. So I need to get this content in the front end page. Okay. So that means this JSP page need to be called when your app.controller listening for slash welcome and it occurs. That means we are not writing welcome.jsp here and we are not saying JSP slash welcome.jsp because the default location it will look for is web app, and inside the web app folder there is JSP folder and the file name dot extension. We are not giving all these things. We are just giving welcome. That means who will give this prefix and suffix value? Obviously, we need to give that in the src main resources. Okay. In this resources, we can able to see application.properties. In this application.property, we have to mvc dot view dot prefix equal to what is the prefix you require slash JSP and then spring dot mvc dot view dot suffix equal to what is the suffix required dot JSP. Save it. Now prefix and suffix is been added here. Let me check it now. We will give slash welcome in the top. Our JSP page is not been loaded. We will check it. Now you can able to note the thing slash JSP welcome.jsp. It should be actually slash JSP slash welcome.jsp because welcome.jsp is inside the JSP folder. So what we can able to do, we will add one more slash here and save it. We will again try it to load. Now you are getting the JSP page, right? Okay. Now we got the JSP page. We got the direct output in the browser as well. We use the REST controller as well as the controller annotation in combination of response body as well. And we used only the get mapping annotations to do all this job. And now we can pass some parameters to the direct return to the browser. Like for function 1, you can pass some parameters, and for function 2 also you can pass some parameters. There are two ways to pass. Let me look into it. The first way, you are having the second page, right? Here I can add slash and then I can say the flower brackets open close and inside the flower brackets some name like ID. And in function 2, let me to have ID value or else just have a name. We can display the name. In function 2, just have string name. Okay. And this string name should be from the name which is given in the path. Okay. That is nothing but the path variable. That means at path variable, you are able to see variable at path variable. You have to say the variable name. Okay. String is being messed out. So I will write string. The variable name is nothing but name, which is in the path I had specified. If you specified n1, the same n1 will be here. And that value will be substituted to this name. And you can say second page with, you can concatenate it with name. So whatever the name I'm passing, I will be getting back in the page. Okay, let me check it. So I have to say slash second. When I say slash second, it is not loaded now because again I have to give slash something. Now I will give slash my name. Now we can able to see second page with my name. So it is directly loading. If I give something like 1, 2, 3 in the top, I will get the same 1, 2, 3 here. That means we are getting the parameter in the path variable and then we are printing the same in the return. Now, there is another method to get these things. The method goes with at request param. Let me have that in the function 1 at request param. Okay, at request param, whatever you are writing the annotation that you have to import on the top. So how to import? Give control space and then import it. At request param, you say the param name as value equal to what is the name of the param? Name. And that corresponds to the string name. Okay. And then you can say hello world with, in the same way, I'm just concatenating it, name. But this time you can able to see I haven't modified the path. Path is just having empty slash and I'm just saying request param value equal to name. In this moment, I have to go, just I have to give empty slash, give enter. It is not displaying. Now you have to give question mark name equal to my name. Now you can get this full value, hello world with my name. How to pass it? You have to give the path, the actual path of empty slash, and then the question mark followed by the value, that means the variable name equal to the actual value for the variable. The left side one is the variable and the right side one is the actual value for the variable. So that is substituted in the page. You can also have the default value with it, comma, you can say default value, it is suggesting now, just give it default value equal to just something like A, B, C, D, something you are giving, save it. Now you see what is happening. If I'm not giving this name, question mark and all, just I'm giving slash, you will get this A, B, C, D. If I suppose give slash question mark name equal to my name, then you will get my name. So this is how you will get the parameter into the function and you can use it for printing that. With this, I will complete our video. The second part is going to be with the RESTful web service of post, put, patch, delete, etc. And furthermore, we have to look the JSP in detail with our Spring Boot application, because we have to pass some value to our JSP pages, and sometimes we need to receive the value from our JSP pages to our application as well. Okay. And now, thank you.